Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. I've been gone for a little while. I don't think I've made a video for at least a month. We went on vacation, we went camping for a couple of weeks with a whole bunch of friends and had a blast. And we are home now, recovering, cleaning up, doing tons of laundry, and getting settled into a cozy fall season. Fall is here. It is finally cooling off outside. The leaves are 1,000 different colors. I've had my birthday last week, and so I am just totally in the cozy mood. One of my daughters gave me a basket full of like cocoa and candles and books and socks and all of the cozy things. I'm going to share with you guys here in a few days all of the books that I got for my birthday. But today what I want to share with you guys is my November reading plan. So I'm going to talk about my Historathon Q4 pile of possibilities. I'm going to talk about what I'm planning to read for Nonfiction November. And then I also want to share with you the picks from my TBR game for November, those books that I'm going to be reading from my TBR shelf. And then finally, I want to talk a little bit about the Read What You Own challenge that starts November 5th this year. I have not participated in that challenge yet, but I am going to be doing that. And actually, I'm already prepared for it. I talked a little bit about that in September. So I'm going to share all of that stuff with you guys today. So if you are new here, welcome. If you are old here, thanks for stopping by again. Let's get into the books. All right, first thing I want to talk about is what I plan to read for Nonfiction November. That is a tag that I believe was started by a book Olive. I will put her information down in the description box either way because that's who I found out about it from, but I think she created this one. I did a little bit of this last year when I first started my channel, but I've picked out several that are specifically for that challenge, and then some of my Historathon Q4 books obviously will be for that challenge as well, since it is, you know, all nonfiction books for Historathon as well. All right, so Nonfiction November. So this is one book that I got last night in the mail from one of my friends on Book Crossing. She sent it to me for my birthday. It is Prince Harry's book called Spare. First of all, this cover is kind of creepy. Now, I've always kind of liked Harry, but this cover, it follows you wherever you go. Harry is looking at you, and that's freaky. And it's like a life-size almost face, right? So it's kind of scary sitting on my bed late at night, but of course, you know, I've heard mixed reviews on this. Everybody's heard mixed reviews, and a lot of it probably just depends on how you feel about Harry and Meghan and the others and all the things. So I'm gonna look at this. I am a fan of the royal family, and I love them all of what I know about them, right? Whatever is built up in my fantasy mind about them. Okay, I don't love Charles and Camilla. I guess that's the only thing that I struggle. But other than that, I love them all. So I'm looking forward to reading through this, or at least starting it, right? All of these are subject to DNFing at any time. I have no problem putting away a book that I'm not enjoying and moving on, but we'll see. I think I'm gonna like this one. All right, next up is another autobiography. This is the biography of Nathaniel Hawthorne, written by Henry James. I've read two things by Henry James. One, I absolutely loved, Daisy Miller. I adored that story. Turn of the Screw, I absolutely hated. So right now he's a 50-50 for me, but I do love Nathaniel Hawthorne, so we'll see what he does with this favorite author of mine. I am reading this partially because, you know, Nonfiction November. It also kind of falls into Historathon Q4, like the second half of his life, right? I think Q4 starts with 1820, and I think he was born like in 1804 or something. So, you know, I guess that's the majority of his life would have been spent in Q4. So falls into that too, but I'm also reading it in preparation for Nathanuary, which I will be hosting in January, and I will be announcing in December. That is just a month-long readathon, I guess you could say, or just a focus on Nathaniel Hawthorne, who is an author that I just love. And this year I'm going to be reading personally The Scarlet Letter and focusing on that story quite a bit. But you guys are welcome to read whatever you want. And I'll talk to you guys more about that later on in November. But anyway, that's on my list for Nonfiction November. Then I'm pulling out this book, which I did not finish for Q3 Historathon. It's called The American Revolutionaries, and it's just a bunch of short stories, true stories. They're just little, it's like they found some writings from people who lived during 1750 to 1800. And the people that lived during this time wrote, you know, diary entries, they wrote a letter to somebody, whatever. And this author has compiled them and probably made them, you know, ready for publication and put them into this little volume. Now, I started reading this summer and I got a little ways into it and I just got kind of bored with it. The stories were repetitive, and also I realized that it was written like for a homeschool kids textbook maybe. So not a bad thing, just not, I don't know, it was just kind of basic and I was getting bored with it. So I put it away. It's one of those things that I've like taken to the dentist office or whatever, sitting and reading in the car while I'm waiting for my daughter to get off work, that sort of thing. So I will probably just sort of keep this in my purse and take it with me wherever I go and see if I can't finish up this book. I think it's worth reading, but it's not anything that I'm really enjoying. So it's kind of one of those things I'm just reading because I should expand my horizons. All right, and then fourthly, for Nonfiction November on my list, I've got the book of Plymouth Plantation by William Bradford. This is his diary. It has been published in this teeny tiny print. I talked about this a couple of months ago when I first got this in the mail. I really do need to find a different version of this though before I can get into this, because this is gonna like really kill my eyes, and I hate the way it's like 4 different columns, but I'm just kind of keeping it around because I know that I want to read this, and I also know that if I don't have it out in my face, I won't remember to look for a better situated copy. So if you guys know of a good copy of William Bradford's diaries of Plymouth Plantation, the early Pilgrims, let me know. But I do want to read through this. You know, it's November, it's Thanksgiving month, plus I'm just really interested in this. So those are my 4 picks that are specifically for Nonfiction November that don't fall into Historathon Q4 as they should. Now for my Historathon Q4 pile of possibilities. I will go through these kind of quickly. I have talked about these books, most of them anyway, on other videos as I've, you know, bought them, like I got them from the thrift shops. I talked about it then. So I'll just kind of go through them quickly, but these are the ones that I have chosen for Q4 Historathon, which runs 1820 to present day. That is October, November, and December. But I pretty much took October off and just kind of read, I don't know, I just read a few things that, you know, were easy and I didn't have to think about because I was so busy with our vacation and all that. So I've got November and December to do stuff with Q4. So first thing, and I don't think I've talked about this one on the channel, but this is Anastasia. This is a supposed biography of a woman who claimed to be the Princess Anastasia Romanov. Most people are probably familiar with that story of the Romanovs and how supposedly a couple of them may have escaped death. And this woman, Anna Anderson, came to America. She ended up in America and claimed to be Anastasia till the day she died. And so this book this is by Peter Kurth. And I was going to say Peter Firth. No, okay. Anyway, this is by Peter Kurth. I have read this before, maybe even a couple of times over the last 25 years or so. When I first read it, I was all in. I was completely sold. Yes, she's definitely Anastasia. And then about 10 years later, I read a updated version that had some evidence put in that shows that they think they have found the bodies of Anastasia and her brother, I think. And so then, of course, I became very skeptical. And so then, for a long time, I believed that this book was not true and that Anna Anderson was just like a crazy person. And so I believed that for a really long time. But lately, there's so much wacky, weird stuff that has gone on in our world and things that were conspiracy theories that have turned out to be true, that now I kind of have my eyes open to the way that, you know, governments and other bodies of, I don't know, power and leadership sort of twist things and change history and all those kinds of things. And so now I'm like, well, maybe she was. Maybe it really was Anastasia. Maybe there was all just a big cover up. So I'm going to read through it again. Not really even for, I don't know, information or like trying to make a solid decision about the subject, because honestly, to me, it really doesn't matter. I have no ties to them or that country or anything that would make me want to really know the answer. It's just one of those historical mysteries that I'm curious about. So I may go through this during these next couple of months, November and December. Next up is this book, American Priestess. I picked this up when we were in Michigan in August. It is telling the story, I believe, of some missionaries that had gone to Jerusalem, and mostly the story of the women. It sounds like there is even maybe some like messianic cult activity going on in this hotel, or it was a house at the time, now it's a hotel in Jerusalem. And I'm not really exactly sure like the solid details about this story, but when I read through the information in the cover, it sounded really interesting. And it's a book about cultures that I'm not familiar with, which again is an area in which I would like to expand my horizons. So I'm gonna go through that probably. I also got this book in Michigan called A Republic in Time, and this basically talks about how the different ways that we look at time have changed over the years. So this book sounds super interesting. It's just kind of hard to describe, but I think basically what this book is getting at is when we think about the expansion of a nation, in this book they're talking about the nation of America. When we think about the expansion, we think about it expanding across geographical space. But instead, this author is looking at how the nation has expanded and grown in the sense of a timeline. And how we grow in our knowledge about things and our understanding of our place in the world, of our understanding of history, as we grow in that, it grows us as a nation. He focuses on 3 ways of imagining time. 1, the romantic historical time that prevailed at the outset of the 19th century. 2, the geological deep time that arose as widely read scientific works displaced biblical chronology with a new scale of millions of years of natural history. And then thirdly, the technologically driven clock time that became central to American culture by century's end. So how we understand time, or what our beliefs about time, shape our growth and development, if that makes sense. So I think it will be interesting. Obviously, there'll be things in here that I don't agree with the author about. I'm a biblical creationist for sure, so I believe in a biblical timeline, but I think that that's going to be a tiny part of the great big picture of this book. So I think that I will enjoy going through this. Next, I don't even know. I got this book called Wicked Grand Rapids. So we spent some time in Grand Rapids, Michigan in August. It was a fun town. And this is some just stories, kind of lighthearted stories about criminals from the past in Grand Rapids. But everything, it looks like it falls in like, late 1800s, early 1900s. So that one will fit with our quarter 4. Next up, I've got The Story of My Life, Helen Keller. I talked a while back about how I wanted to read something about Helen Keller that isn't the play version. I think it's called A Miracle Worker. I just did not enjoy that. It was one of those things we had to read in school like over and over again. Did not enjoy that. And so I found this. Actually, did my mom give this to me? No, I bought this in Michigan. And so anyway, it's just a biography, a simple biography of Helen Keller, which I'm gonna go through and see if I like that a little bit more. I think her story is important. I think she's a really important historical figure and an important figure in, the advancement of medicine and medical care. But my introduction to her was not all that great. All right, next up I've got Brazilian Sketches by Rudyard Kipling. So it looks like they're just short stories about his time spent in South America. I thought the cover of this was really cool. I got this at an antique shop here in Northwest Arkansas, and I like Rudyard Kipling. Me and one of my daughters read through just those stories. Actually, a couple of my kids and I read through that, and they're funny, and yeah, so I think I'll enjoy that. Next is George Washington Carver, An American Biography. I don't know if I will get to this, but up the road from me about, less than an hour, in Diamond, Missouri is where the George Washington Carver Museum, and I think he probably lived up there. That's where all that is, and it talks a lot about him, and we always drive by it on our way to Joplin, and I always think, I need to go there. I need to take my kids there. I've heard it's very interesting. It's very sciencey and cool, and there's a pretty park and different things, and so I think it would be a really great day trip. But I think that it would help to have a little bit of information about him. He's not somebody that I learned about at school or ever really took the opportunity to learn about as an adult. So I may go through this. I may just sort of read the first part of it and then go up to the park and check all that out, and then maybe be more inspired to read the whole thing. But I did pick this up at a shop in Michigan. Yeah, I must have had Historathon Q4 on the brain when I was in Michigan, because most of these books are things that I got there in August. Okay, so finally on my list of Q4 books, I've got Walden by Henry David Thoreau, which is probably going to be the first book that I dive into when I finish the book that I am on. I read this a really long time ago. I think like 2010 maybe was the last time that I read through this. So a really long time, but it's the perfect time of year to read about Walden Pond, and the cover, of course, is very fitting. It looks exactly like it looks outside my window right now, which I love. So I'm inspired to read this, and I think that, I think I'm gonna pick this up within this week. All right, and then before I get into the books that I chose in my TBR game, this was sitting on this cart as I've been going through it. I realized this is the works of Anne Bradstreet. She was a poet during the time of the Pilgrims and the colonies being established and things. She was a writer then, and this is a book of, it looks like it's all poetry. And I have been meaning to read through this at least a little bit. I had a goal this year of reading, I can't remember, maybe from 3 different poets. And I really honestly think I've still only read Emily Bronte's poems. So I got this here on this shelf, and I need to pick it up and read through at least a couple. I had it in my Q3 pile, and then, I was so really busy. Q3. So we'll stick that up with these and hopefully look at it from time to time, at least over the next couple of months. All right, so for my TBR game, what I do for my TBR game is I have a little cup with squares in it that all have a number on it. When I went through my TBR shelves, which are over here behind me, there are 2 5-shelf bookcases. So I've got 10 shelves basically of books on my TBR, things that I have not read yet, I have purchased or been given as a gift or whatever. I don't really have a problem with that. I don't feel guilty about that. I like having my own personal bookstore to kind of just browse and go through, and definitely a mood reader. So I really have no problem with that. However, if I don't make room on the bookshelves, I can't buy any more books. And as I finish books and want to keep them, I'm finding that my other shelves are getting pretty packed out. So it would be good to spread those out a little bit. There were, I don't know, maybe 280-ish books on my TBR shelf. So definitely need to tackle that, but I'm not gonna feel guilty about it. So anyway, what I did was I wrote each of those books down in a book journal and numbered them all. And then I put little tokens in a cup, and each token has a number on it. And so then each month I draw out a token, and I look for that book, I see how many pages are in it, and I write that down, and I just keep going until I get close to 1,000. I give myself about 50 pages leeway, so if I hit 950 or somewhere in between 950 and 1,000, then I go ahead and stop. But if I go over 1,000, I have to go ahead and go over, right? If that makes sense. So I just now this morning did my picks for November, and that will be 4 books from these shelves. So we'll go through them. It adds up to 1,050 pages. All right, so the first one up is The Brontes Went to Woolworths by Rachel Ferguson. I've had this on my wish list for a while, and then on my TBR shelf for a couple of years. And I think it's going to be a fun read. It sounds like it's a group of sisters, and they live in London, and they just kind of live their days with their favorite fantasy characters, or even like book characters or author characters. They kind of live side by side with their imaginary friends, basically. And so it says that they live like normal middle-class families before the First War, except at meal times they are attended by a cloud of witnesses, such as a doll who converses in French, a puppet, a music hall comic, a ballet troupe called the Kensington Palace Girls, One of them supposedly turns down marriage because she's in love with Sherlock Holmes. So they live in a slightly fantasy world, and I think it's just going to be a cute story. I think that it probably is maybe a modern take on the Bronte girls themselves, and the fantasy world that they lived in with their brother, and the stories that they made up, and you know, the indication that we kind of get they had a difficult time maybe sort of mingling with society because they probably were on the eccentric and quirky side. So I think this will be a good story to go through. Brontes went to Woolworths. So the next up is a book that I got in a Book Crossing book box. This is called A Gift for Abigail by D. Tilton. This book was originally written in the 1800s to early 1900s. It is part of a series that this publisher has come out with called the Victorian Bookshelf. So they basically just round up, you know, old stories and republish them. So it looks like the story is about a girl named Abigail Rayner, and it's just her coming of age story, and there's some faith elements and things. I don't know if I will actually get into this very far, but my TBR game goes like this. If I don't finish the book, if I go ahead and DNF it, that is fine. If I finish the book and want to keep it, great. If I finish the book and want to pass it along and unhaul it, that's totally fine too. But whatever I do, I cannot put that book back on my TBR shelves at the end of the month. So if I have this pile of books, they have to leave my shelf forever, my TBR shelves forever. So the ones that I want to keep, I put into my personal collection, which is the rest of this room except for those two shelves. If I unhaul it or, you know, finish it and DNF it or whatever, and I just don't want to keep it, then I give it away, I sell it, I trade it online, I leave it in a little free library, whatever. But if I don't finish it, I cannot put it back on the shelf to, you know, read later. So it helps with that mood reading a little bit, because if I'm not in the mood to finish it that month, then, you know, I just have to have a little bit of self-control and say, well, I believe in serendipity, so if it comes back to me, great. And I will read it at a later date. But for now, it's gotta go. I kind of have a feeling this is one of those that's gonna probably be DNF'd and it's probably going to go. Sometimes I like reading these old Victorian, you know, moral tales, but I'm not at all in any way, shape, or form in the mood for that right now. And so if I don't get in the mood for it here pretty quick, it's gonna have to go. But we'll give it a try. So the next one is Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf. And I recently bought this. This has only been on my shelf for not even 2 months probably. I am forcing myself to read more Virginia Woolf. She's not an author that I enjoy. It's not so much her writing, although I do struggle with her stream of consciousness sort of style, although that is how I write too. So maybe I'm getting a taste of my own medicine, or I'm getting to see how annoying it is, or I'm getting to see that you can write like that and still be really famous and beloved, I guess. I don't know, maybe I am learning some lessons from Virginia Woolf. But I think what the real problem is I don't think I would like her as a person. Like if I actually knew her in real life, who she seems to be, everything I've read about her, or just her voice in her writing and her nonfiction things that I've read, I don't know. I don't think we get along. So I struggle with Virginia Woolf, but I'm going to read Mrs. Dalloway. From what I understand, it's just this story takes place just all in an afternoon or a single day. I also have a problem with militant, whiny feminists. I don't know if she's a militant, whiny feminist. I'm all for feminism to a certain degree. But you're militant and whiny about it, or entitled, or self-absorbed, or immature, or some of those other bad characteristics that sometimes can go with feminism and a lot of other isms, right? Not just that. Then I tend to get a little turned off, and I kind of get that vibe from Virginia Woolf sometimes. So all that to say, I'm giving her a chance. I'm going to read this book. All right, and then the last book from that TBR game is Jane Austen at Home by Lucy Worsley. I got this as a gift from my husband, I think. Oh yeah, he gave it to me on the 5th night of Hanukkah, which was sweet. He gives me books on each night of Hanukkah. We're not Jewish, but we do like to remember Hanukkah because it's, you know, a cool thing that God did. And so we like to remember Hanukkah and do fun things during that time of year. So anyway, he got me that book for the 5th night of Hanukkah. I read the biography that Lucy Worsley wrote about Agatha Christie this summer, and I don't know, I didn't enjoy it as much as other biographies I've read about Agatha Christie, because I think Lucy Worsley, she just didn't look at it super objectively. There was a lot of opinion mixed in, so I think that, and I don't even know actually if she called it a biography. I feel like it was kind of more of a biography slash commentary, and so which is fine. Nobody says that a biography has to be completely objective, but there were just things that I didn't agree with her, and perspectives about Agatha Christie that she, you know, just that she put forth that I just did not agree with. I think that unfortunately a lot of what Lucy Worsley put out on Agatha Christie was based on TV shows and not actually reading the stories. Sorry if that, you know, offends. I kind of think though, because a lot of the information that she shared really was things that I saw more in the shows and the TV shows that were obviously not produced by Agatha Christie. So anyway, all I'm about to say, we'll see what she has to say about Jane Austen, because I've read a ton about Jane Austen. I do feel like I am a loyal, faithful, and well-educated Janeite, and so we'll see how I feel about Lucy Worsley's take on Jane Austen. Is it going to be just a biography? Is there going to be a lot of commentary mixed in here? And will I agree with it? We'll see. One of the things that I did not like about her biography on Agatha Christie was that she just really went down that feminism trail way further than Agatha Christie ever displayed herself to have been on, and just when she went that direction, I was just like, what? No. But there's a lot of people who like to put Jane Austen on that same ultra feminist path, which she was not. They want to make her faith out to have been very shallow, which it was not. And so we'll see what she does with Jane Austen here in this book. I hope I'm not disappointed, but I do like watching Lucy Worsley on TV. So I'm just not sure how I feel about her as a biographer. All right, and then finally the Read What You Own challenge. This is hosted by several different co-hosts. I will put them all in the description box. I found out about it through Criminali, and my friend Debs at Rainer Read Stuff, she talks about it in a video that she recently made. I'll put all that stuff in the description box for you guys. But basically, Read What You Own challenge, you are supposed to set yourself a challenge to read a certain amount of books that you already own before you buy new books. It is a little bit fluid because you obviously don't want to hate yourself doing this challenge, but you also want to be practicing self-control and not just go on these crazy buying binges from things that you're never going to read. I don't know. I kind of like doing that too though, but I will participate in this challenge because like I said, my TBR is at like 280 something, but I've already pretty much got myself set up for this challenge. I'm going to put a link in the description box also to the video where I explain my TBR challenge in detail if you are interested in that. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to give myself the goal of reading 50 books from the TBR list that I had at the time of making that list. I did do it at the beginning of October, so technically I, kind of started a little bit early, but I didn't commit to this challenge until now. So I'm going to use that TBR list to help me remember and see and be able to distinguish the books that have been on my TBR for a long time versus the ones that I keep adding to it, but I don't write those, numbers on the cards. I don't add those to that book. That book is just the list of books that were on these shelves up until the time that I started the game in early October. So I'm challenging myself to get rid of 50 books from my TBR shelf during this challenge year that begins on November 5th. Whether I read those books or I unhaul them or I DNF them, I gotta go through 50. Now, caveats are allowed on this challenge, which I think is wonderful. So here are my caveats. First, I have to go through 5 books before I can purchase new books. So whether I read those all the way through, or I DNF them, or I just decide I don't want to read them at all and unhaul them before even starting them, I've got to go through 5 before I want to go book shopping again. I know that doesn't sound like a whole lot, but I really like to go book shopping, and this is my best time of year to go book shopping because everything is cozy and it's cold, so I can actually leave my house, because if it's 95 and 1,000 pounds of humidity, I can't leave. I have to stay here. So I've got to prepare for this times of the year when I do have to stay here and cannot leave the house. And this is the time of year in which I prepare by going book shopping all the time. So 5 books I gotta go through reading or DNFing before I can buy more books. Second caveat is I can add books at any time if they were given to me. So whether it's a gift or someone just says, hey, Sarah, here's 1,000 pounds of books. Are you happy? And I will say yes and put them in my library without batting an eye. So if I'm given books, that doesn't count. I can add them to my library, yes. My third caveat is that I reserve the right to quit this challenge at any time, no matter what, without explanation. Yes, I have commitment issues. But I also really want to give myself a no obligation year. That is like going to be my New Year's resolution that I start today. I have been so swamped this year. It has been crazy that I just really need some time to have no obligations where I can just say, you know what, I'm not going to feel bad about that and just not feel bad about that. So if I need to quit this challenge, I'm going to quit this challenge and it's going to be fine because I'm still going to read the books. Just maybe not as quickly as I planned with this challenge. All right, that I think is all the caveats. If I think of some more, we'll go with them as we go along. But I think it's gonna be fun, and honestly, I'm already doing it. I really just want to participate and be a part of the group. So hope everybody's doing really good. I will see you soon. Hey, say hi in the comments. I haven't been on for a good 6 weeks or so, and I'm missing everybody. So let me know what you've been up to. Let me know if you have a great video up that I need to come and watch. I will be sure to come over and see it. Otherwise, you guys have a great day, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.